All right, and welcome to the MW Pro Calive cast of SJR versus House of Lords Invitational Finals. This, last I recall, is going to be a best of 7 on Conquest. My first drop will be Alpine, and it'll be 525 ton weight bracket, so it should be interesting. My co-caster here today is Antonius Rex from Swords of Kentaris. I am your caster here. This would be Versanai from Golden Kashyyyk. And how is everyone today?
Massive response in the chat. Apparently people are doing wonderfully.
Yeah. Well, there is a bit of delay as well, so they won't be hearing this quite yet, but hey, you know, better late than never. Alright, so first map here, Mr. Tony. We have 525 on Alpine. Two of the strongest teams here going at it head-to-head. First time for them in Conquest. What do you think's going to be going on here?
Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting match. Got a couple different dynamics coming into this first game, certainly. One, we're playing Alpine, and we've seen a lot of classic Alpine games between these two teams. But for the most part, it's been the longer range fights that we've seen. So the two big factors, one, we're playing at 525 tonnage, so the lightest tonnage in the Invitational. So you're going to see lots of light mechs and mediums. In addition to that, we're playing on Conquest mode. And so that changes the dynamic on Alpine and focuses everyone sort of down from the big mountain amongst those smaller hills. So certainly a different gameplay mechanic than we've seen in previous matches between these two teams.
Yeah, I agree. The skirmish of this map can be kind of hit or miss. It depends on the teams going at it, but typically, when everyone here is in it to win, and skirmish that tends to mean putting yourself in some pretty unapproachable positions. It tends to stagnate the gameplay a little bit, but that is not the case here with Conquest. This should be pretty aggressive play all around, I think.
Yeah, there's not really a better way to play the light tonnage. It's one of the fastest game modes, and it 100% always ends up in a brawl between the light mechs and the mediums. So, it'll be a bit different.
Yeah, for sure. Bring up the map tactic here, I think. Put that on right now. There we go. I should be able to see that now. So, you got the spawns here for Team 1 and 2. Team 2, I do believe, is red team on every map. So you got, I want to say SJR is the lobby. So.
I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look up the rules.
Well, we'll go based on that assumption here. So you got a J11 spawn, an L9 spawn, and an L67 border spawn for SJR, and you'll have a G4, F6, and E8 grid start for House of Lords, putting them over by the comm tower. I'll switch this over to Conquest real quick. Everyone can see that. That.
So in the Invitational, it's the higher seeded team will always host the lobby and be in the #1 spawn position. So I'm assuming at this point House of Lords would be the #1 seeded team. Them
I would
being
think so.
the undefeated team in the winner's bracket, and Steeljag coming up from their defeat of SWK for the loser's bracket finals. So going with that, I would assume they are the higher seeded team at this point.
Right, so just swap those around. Interesting thing about Alpine, despite being Conquest, is it is extremely rare for anyone to go for the Gamma Gap point. It just doesn't typically happen. The fights usually break out over Theta or Sigma, or both, depending on what the strategy being employed is. So it tends to break out pretty quick. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of play here. You're talking 525. All these mechs are at least doing 80 plus kph, realistically speaking. And the central point is Theta. I mean, I really see a quick lockup happening. Really do.
Sometimes you'll see a team send one light, either side send one light to Gamma, to cap that and give them that one cap advantage. The problem with that, of course, is one, the enemy team can see that you have a mech or more on Gamma when the cap starts flashing, but two, and probably more importantly, that mech is a long ways away from getting back to the fight, which, being Conquest, as Verse said, there's going to be a big fight over Theta. That's how this map happens. And so once you get that big fight going, you want all hands on deck. Especially in the light race, those Jenners and Embers, when they survive to the end, they carry the day. So it's a tough mech to drop out of your combat list.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be interested to see if they do send one to Gamma or not. I suspect that this is going to be a very much all-in and screw caps kind of game. But we'll see how it plays out. Should be interesting. Definitely a refresh and relief from the matches we've had previously.
So looking at the map here, obviously one team gets Epsilon for free, the other team gets Kappa for free. You've got Gamma way off in the distance. Now, sometimes you'll see with Sigma that one team will be able to cap Sigma, and they'll have their starting cap, and then it sort of forces the other team to push in and take Theta, and thus sort of expose themselves. It doesn't always happen, obviously, but there's been certain games. I know the last Steeljag versus SWK match on Alpine, SWK had a bit of a cap advantage, if I recall, and that forced Steeljag to push in and sort of force the engagement on one team's terms.
Yeah, I don't know if I recall that match per se, but definitely if they wanted to, they could get a 3 cap and potentially force a fight to happen more on their terms. I mean, that can happen here, but...
you guys ready?
Realistically, yes.
Okay, we're going to be dropping.
All right. Realistically, this is going to be a lockup. This should be quite the scrap.
Those light tonnages always are. I guess to go over some of the other rules that people may not be aware of for the Invitational, of course, as we've said, it is Conquest mode the whole way through. Our teams have dropped.
Alright, we have dropped.
There's no strikes, was what I was going to say.
That will certainly play a part, and here we are, going into the game. All right. And it would appear that we do indeed have SJR taking the lower base spawns.
Yeah, so we've got House of Lords on top side. So right away we can already see that SJR had 4 Shadowhawks deployed on the far right, so they are not sending anyone to Gamma, as is quite often the case.
Specifically, actually.
And no lights from House of Lords are going for Gamma either.
Nice. So it looks like our
opening shots going.
Our lineup for SJR right now appears to be lots of Jenners, and a Raven, and 4 Shadowhawk K.
For House of Lords, on the other side, we have 3 Jenners, 2 Embers. I see 3 Cataphracts out there, and a Spider and another Jenner, way off on the flank here. Oh, sorry, that's 2 Embers, a Spider and a Jenner. So we've got a bit of a light fight engaging over on Sigma.
Seeing that right now.
So this could be a bit dangerous for Steel Jaguar, and there you see it, they're falling back with their lights. They recognize they're getting outnumbered, and they're falling back to the rest of their team. Both teams are closing on each other. This engagement's going to happen sooner rather than later. UAV's going up for House of Lords. So Steel Jag has actually brought what looks to be quite a few ER large lasers. We've gotten a bit of damage in. No one below the 90s yet. The Dweebo's the lowest at 91% right now.
New target acquired.
But as it stands, Steel Jaguar is certainly winning the exchange.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to have to make an engagement here soon on the House of Lords department. Can't sit back too long taking all that hook damage.
Yeah, it's no significant damage yet, but it all adds up. And you can see Steel Jaguar continually falling back one mountain to the next mountain, getting in that damage while maintaining that distance. They're going to be looking to set up a kill box once the House of Lords catch up enough that they're going to be able to charge. And there you see it. The Shadowhawks are continuing to fall back while taking shots where they can. Steel Jag is certainly milking the poke damage for all it's worth.
Yep, definitely. You've got the Cataphracts from House of Lords trying to trade with PPC fire, but the PPC's been, PPC speed has been reduced, and it's not as easy to hit at these 500, 600, 700 meter shots as they used to be, bordering impossible in a lot of cases.
Very true, Versi. Not to mention, they're not aiming at Atlas's downrange. Those are Shadowhawks and Light Max bouncing around. Makes it even tougher of a shot. Alright, more poke damage, but House of Lords is pushing in closer and closer. Steel Jag continuing to fall back, running through a set of hills. They're milking that damage. You gotta give them that. But things are getting pretty close. This engagement will happen soon.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Lords are going to want to sit back, forever with all this harass going down. They're going to have to make a commitment to it before terribly long. I mean, you're looking at it, you got to think about the teammate speed.
A Dweebo, appears to have lagged out or something, maybe disconnected. He's ran in a straight line, and he's now just faked something on the wall. That's one down, potentially, right now. Steel Jag continuing to fall back in the confusion. They've managed to gain distance once again on House of Lords. Once again, milking this poke-mage in a way you really don't see very often in the light tonnage. Firebire getting cut out for SJR, though. He's taking some damage, down to 77%. Steel Jaguars continuing to fall back in pretty good order. They got one of their light mechs got caught out for some damage. Now Calf Yank's down to 59%, and he's taking some damage. UAVs go up for both sides.
Yeah, his armor's still holding, though. He only got armor lost on the one dummy arm, so he's still okay for the time being, but they're definitely moving in for a fight here now.
The fight is engaged now. We've got the light on House of Lords fully engaged. Those Cataphracts are they're missing out on the fight, trying to catch up. Steel Jag continuing to fall back in good order. This is an interesting match. Calf Yank's lowest at 52. Ooh, Wispy takes a big hit. He's down. Calf Yank's 44%, possibly to follow next.
Yeah, they can't keep taking these losses. They're down technically 2 at the moment. Yeah.
Odd Wall is down. It's 1-1. Well, they're getting in there. They close the gap, but Steel Jag continues to fall back where they can. 2-1 for Steel Jag as Ecclese goes down. Caffey Yanks follows soon after 3-2 as G-Man follows suit. This is still close. There's some big damage on the House of Lords, but it's... Ooh, they're down 6.
It's looking a bit unrecoverable at this point. I mean, they're down, 6 mechs, and the numbers are dropping
Cobra is
quickly.
about to go. And at this point, they're just mopping up the last mechs. There's a Jenner, Ember, and Spider left. Cobra and Nuclear. One of them goes down, and this is going to be game.
Yep.
Dweebo is back in the game. He's rushing back in. But at this point, that's just too late. Dweebo's being focused down. He goes down, and Cobra is left to wonder what happens.
That's the end of the first round. Wow.
So that'll be a 12-5 win for Steel Jaguar. And Steel Jaguar, another one in the record books. That's got to be one of the highest tiered matches we've seen in a light drop, where ER large lasers and falling back and keeping that poke damage occurred. And I really got to hand it to Steel Jag. That was incredibly impressive. I mean, it's hard to... You got to remember that Steel Jag can't run full speed away from House of Lords while maintaining that poke damage. And yet they were able... They ran circles around House of Lords for a good 5 minutes. Or at least managed to keep them at it to maintain the poke.
Yeah, that really was impressive. I know that they've been working on that for a good while now, so expected some of that to show, but I wouldn't say in that drop. As I said, I was expecting them to lock up pretty hard, but that is not what happened, and yeah, that's pretty impressive. I have to say, that was a very convincing win there. So going into the next round here, we're looking at round 2 being a 725-ton drop on Forest Colony Snow. Yeah, another small map. Well, I wouldn't say another. Last one was a big map, but kind of relative with the way that map engages. But a smaller map, nonetheless, much, much smaller. I want to say Forest Colony Snow and Forest Colony in general is one of the smallest maps in the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
That kind of makes that general composition we saw earlier a lot tougher to do. It'll be interesting to see if they bring it out this time. I'm gonna say not, but I was wrong last time, so...
Well, so it's 100 tons more than last time, so you'll likely, for Steel Jag, you'll either see a shift of... Well, a lot of teams like to go... shift those mediums up to the heavies and go for a heavy with lights, and then you use a couple mediums to fill in the tonnage. But then again, we've seen some interesting picks from both teams. And it should be noted, both teams had very different drop decks too, so that's quite interesting as well. So what did you think in general about that last game?
Well, last game was interesting. When I saw the Shadowhawk 2Ks, I just assumed SRM Brawlers. I didn't even think to check, but clearly that was a mistake. I mean, Trip ER is not what I was expecting from that drop. And I know that Lords likes to use their Embers, but I kind of feel like Jenners are the superior mech on colder maps. You don't have the heat issues that you normally do, and you're able to get off those massive alphas a lot more frequently. And I think the combination of that and the kite that they had, which again, the Jenner is superior at doing, kind of played in their favor a lot for that. I feel like if they had a bit more, skirmishing capability, a bit more reliable range in their deck, that things might have played out a lot differently than they did. Also kind of feel like the cataphract there, while typically a good choice in that scenario, wasn't because they just didn't have the speed to close. And SGR had the opportunity to abuse that fact and consistently maintain range all across the map.
Impressively so. And one other factor too with the cataphracts, you saw PPCs on those builds, and I mean traditionally, obviously cataphract one of the better PPC snipers, but with the recent nerfs to the projectile speed, you're throwing softballs across that Alpine at small moving targets. It certainly takes a degree of skill that wasn't around before, and I think you saw that too. Those cataphracts didn't pick up a ton of damage, took a long time to get to the fight, and that was pretty critical to their defeat, I suspect.
Yeah, I would agree. I really feel like in that particular deck, the cataphracts probably contributed very little overall. AC-10s and PPCs are a fairly decent combination right now as far as synergy goes, but you give up a lot to do it. And 950 meters a second, if they were using ERs, I don't recall, but it's not that fast. I mean, it's really just not that quick when you're thinking about shooting 500, 600 meter distances. If anyone's moving plus 70 kph and they're not, the size of a billboard, it's really easy to miss that shot, even for a relatively skilled pilot. House of Lords and SJR are obviously full of very skilled pilots, but even for the best marksman, it's tough, and I think it really didn't do them any favors here. If I could pick any one thing, I think that would be it.
And certainly the being able to counter the PPCs and sort of the lack of return fire with all those ER larges, all you have to do is click on that target, right? You don't need to lead, and you can score that damage. So you definitely saw that advantage go to Steel Jaguar as they managed to pull back. Seriously, I have not seen a team fall back in that good of an order while maintaining the damage. That was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't think about doing a after-action review on the map there, but we will get the next one for sure. But it was interesting, the movements and positions that SJR took. Especially for that map, being that unaggressive on Conquest, I don't think I've ever seen that before. That was pretty ingenuitive, I think is the word I'll use here.
Yeah, that word works.
All right, so going into this next drop, 725, Forest Colony Snow, what are their predictions
625.
here? 625, sorry, my apologies. 625, yes. What are the predictions here?
Well, bigger drop deck, much smaller map. We won't be able to see the style of game that just occurred on Forest Colony Snow. There just isn't the map space to make it happen. You go left or right, and you got the cave wall and then the other wall. You just don't have the kind of space to maneuver in that sort of fashion. So I've got to assume that Steel Jaguar is going to go closer towards a more traditional loadout, the higher DPS alphas mixed with quite likely some brawling potential.
Yeah, I think I agree here. If not a full-on out brawl, we'll see how that works. I mean, it is not that much weight still, so technically you might see one or two big boys to eat up the tonnage and then spam mediums and lights. It's entirely possible. But I think SGR is more favorited towards mediums than, say, Lords. They tend to favor having their heavies over anything else. So you might see a spam of heavies and lights from House of Lords. Just a prediction.
And that is a good point. Especially at this tonnage, you can certainly see those drop decks that it'll be something like 5 cataphracts and 7 Jenners and Embers. Something along those lines. Now, the alternative, though, is Brawling's coming back in style. Steel Jag did quite well with it prior in their Arhod game last night against Clan Smoke Jaguar. The Brawling certainly is making a comeback, and this is a good map for it. Now, I don't think either team will go pure Brawl, simply because they both have tremendously excellent snipers who are used to those builds. What I suspect we'll see is sort of a mixed build from each side, something like 4 snipers, 4 brawlers and then the light lance. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, chances are pretty good that SJR will bring some brawling mediums to the table. They've been really favoring their Griffin 3Ms for the most part. I suspect we'll see those here in this weight. Curious to see what the mediums will throw out, considering I highly predict a heavy spam from House of Lords. That's a recent occurrence. Actually, is the prevalence of mediums outside of light drops that's becoming more and more of a thing, especially with the SRM fixes that happened, consistent hit rate, improvements that are being made, the reduction in things like 500-600 plus meter pinpoint damage. All of these things have helped bring the medium back into play, and I know that SJR has a lot of medium loving pilots. I mean, Adwala is well known for just absolutely loving mediums.
Certainly.
So I'll be interested to see the compositional difference. I think in this drop weight, we're going to see a big disparity between these two teams and how they play.
Now, going back to the last game for a minute, Adwevo legging out for, let's call it the middle chunk of that game. How much of a factor do you feel that played on the game?
Well, I would say it definitely played a factor here. I mean, not having a mech into the fight is always, not good. Realistically, going into that fight, they lost Wispy fairly quickly into it, so you have to look at it like 2 down. And in competitive play, single-digit percentiles matter. So,
absolutely.
Being down a couple of mechs is a pretty serious position to be in, especially early in a fight. It's a lot harder to pull it back. But ultimately, I feel like even if Adi had been there, the damage had been done. They got harassed a lot before that fight started. SJR got a lot of damage in without really any return. They were pretty ahead by the time the fight had started.
That's kind of how I feel as well. While obviously losing a guy for the clinch moment is certainly key, you saw so much sniping damage or sort of long-range harass damage going in, and they as I can't say it enough, they managed to kite so well that would one more mech have tilted the balance? I don't think so, but certainly give it the game would have been closer for sure. But impressive kiting by Steel Jaguar, and that's certainly, I think, what won the match in the end.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. If you look back on match history for Lords, I mean, those kind of shutouts just don't typically happen. House of Lords has been on a rampage for quite a while now. And for them to have a very convincing loss like that is actually, frankly, kind of surprising. It shows that SJR has really been hunkering down. They've really been thinking about what to do next and where to go. They've been boot camping, per se. And it's paid off. That was an absolutely brilliant match, and if they continue to show the same prowess and team coordination and just ingenuity that they definitely showed in that match, this could be a very surprising series. Having said that, House of Lords' weakness has always been the lighter drop weights. House of Lords is full of notoriously heavy and assault pilots, hence why I predict their heavy preference here in this drop. It will get a lot tougher as the weights go up. SJR is certainly no slouch in these heavier weights, but that's Lord's forte. So we'll see how all this training and changing and evolving that SJR has done in such a short period of time pays off for them here in the next round.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what kind of momentum this brings into Steel Jaguar. Just like any sport, momentum is a real morale boost. And you see it in MechWarrior quite a bit, even. So, it'll be a bit different. I don't know if House of Lords has ever been down one. I've got a feeling they've won a lot of the light drops. There's probably only been 1, maybe 2 series where they've lost the first game. Have to go back and check the record.
Yeah, I would agree. Sorry, people see me looking around. I have several different monitors here going on all the time.
Oh, they are deployed.
They are
Did
deployed.
not get a warning there. Are deployed.
Okay. Well, moving into the next game here.
So Force Colony Snow, 625 tonnage.
Alright, we'll see what they got for mechs right off the start of the game here. Hopefully. They're already out and about. You can see some Griffins, some Shadowhawks, 2Ks and 2D2s, Embers, and Jinners, and as well some Cataphracts for House of Lords.
We don't even have time for loadouts. The engagement has already happened. We have House of Lords charging straight up to the boat, and Steeljag's on the other side. Steeljag is pushing around that corner. There's a full-on engagement before he can even load in. Rick Rom's taking the beating, 79%. He's currently one of the lowest. G-Man for Steeljag at 61. Magician takes some big hits. He goes down. Time to Light is down as well. It's 1-1.
Yep, and the percentages are dropping for SJR. They have 2 more max critical, 2 down. They are now 3 down. 3 to 1. 2 to 3. Yeah, Pie Maker is getting dangerously close now, as well as Rakko for House of Lords. And this is just an all-out scrap.
Absolutely. It's 4-4 now. Game is tied. This is going to be a close one. Oh, Steeljag's taking some big damage on some of their guys, though. House of Lords up by 1. The legal adept goes down. Gutsoon to follow. And at 5-3, this is looking like it's House of Lords' game. Ripperon goes down, but so does Firebear. Fire. 4-2. Serial Thrax taking critical damage.
Critical.
Yeah, this is looking pretty convincing right now.
Critical.
And Fission is the last one alive.
Yep.
In his number. And Fission's lost his leg, he's limping, and that is game. So 12-8 in favor of the Lords. Much closer than the last game.
That
is a convincing victory.
And there is, of course, all the mechs we were talking about. And you'll notice here, like I said, SJR likes their medium mechs. I think that shows. Lots of Griffins. Lots and lots of Griffins. But surprisingly to me, Words did indeed bring a full lance of mediums. Actually, over a full lance.
Yeah, they had some Griffins in their lineup, certainly.
Yeah. So, it's just really hard to break that one down. But we will certainly try. It is quite the scrap. Exciting, of course. So, I think it was safe to say they didn't bother with capping too much.
Not at all. I mean, you saw right off the bat, both teams barreled towards that boat, and it was Steeljag who pushed along this flank of the boat, wrapped around, and brought the engagement to the Lords. Yeah. And looking back on that fight, I mean, similar loadouts, both teams going heavy brawler. And I suspect part of what the difference was, Steeljag came around the side of the boat and kind of got nestled into a bit of a choke point where you had much of the House of Lords lineup looking at those first couple of mechs. And you saw from there, Magician took some big damage off the bat, and a few other players leading to those first kills going House of Lords away. And obviously, once you get a couple of kills, that snowball effect can occur. Still a pretty close game, 12-8, so only 4 mechs left alive. It was 3 light mechs and Schopenhauer and a Cataphract.
Yeah, and the Cataphract was yet again the PPC AC-10 there. And for that drop, I would suspect that they did significantly more for them. It was a much closer range fight. There wasn't a whole lot of kiting going on. Didn't have to worry about positioning or speed or things like this. So I think all in all, there the Cataphract did what they wanted it to do. That being said, that there was something odd about their deck. They did have a Shadowhawk, I want to say 2H. And believe it or not, it was running triple machine guns. It also had some non-arty SRMs and some lasers to back it up. Interesting choice. Not really sure what they were going for there, but it clearly paid off. Other than that, I mean, I think it was just a matter of a big old scrap. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about that. Just got into a big old brawl.
It was a very, very fast fight. I'd like to see how long that fight actually took. Probably around the 3.5 minute mark.
It certainly wasn't long, that's for sure. Alright, so, I mean, we got our map tactic here. I think...
You could lay out some lines. It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
straight line towards the boat.
Yeah, I think it just was, they just straight beelined it straight to about this location here. And that's really all there is to that, I think. Once they got to that point, you know, you had them just kind of base around here in a central location, and they just kind of chilled, I would assume. They got some ranged harass in with their Cataphracts, who certainly had, you know, SJR moving in. I think they went for Kappa originally. I think it was sort of in their plan to just straight push into Kappa here, and then perhaps move over towards like D4 in this location here. But it never really worked out for them, I don't think. Obviously, Lord's just straight hard engaged. That would be my prediction of why their whole force, with a lot of brawlers, would go out towards Kappa. There's not a lot of cover there, and it's easy to get kind of bottlenecked around that ship. That's the only theory I have on why they would have been out there with their whole force. Ultimately, I don't think it was a good play, though.
I've seen this style of fight occur in many Merrick Civil War games back in the pure PPC meta. You had Merrick Civil War with its restrictions, actually bringing the brawler game back in some planets. And you would quite often see two teams line up on either side of the boat, giving each other cover, and one team would push the engagement. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's quite a 50-50 coin flip sometimes. Though I do feel with quite often the attacking team will try and send mechs on both flanks and down the middle to maximize sort of the potential damage they can do. Whereas in this case, you saw Steel Jag cluster up in that D4 corridor between the big hill and the front of the boat, and you could tell from the damage being dealt, they took the bigger damage early, which snowballed into the win, I feel.
Yeah, Lords, I think, predicted this. Like I said, bringing the Cataphracts, which I think was the only range in their deck, I think really played out well here. Like I said, I think they were getting damage in right as soon as SJR was getting up to around Kappa. They'd already committed to going to Kappa. They couldn't just run, so they had to commit to the fight. But the problem is when you commit to a fight around that ship, especially when someone is sitting on the backside of it, not having to worry about getting caught up on all the boxes, all the geometry errors on that ship, getting stuck on the ship, which actually happens, or in it for that matter. There's just so many ways that could go wrong, and does on a frequent basis, that I feel like they got forced into a bad spot. Part of me wonders how that would have played out if they had not gone out to Kappa at the start.
Well, if they hadn't have gone out to Kappa at the start, you would have seen a more traditional conquest forest colony where one team gets Kappa, the other side gets Epsilon, and then whichever team can snag Theta in the beginning tends to have that cap advantage, and kind of forces the other team to engage them rather than vice versa. But Steeljack said fuck that and brought the engagement to him. But it didn't quite pay out the way they were hoping it would.
Yep, definitely. All right, so we are now looking at the next map here, and that would be 725 on HPG Manifold, which should be pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and bring that up. All right. So now we have HPG Manifold here. This map has two incredibly different play styles to it. Conquest makes this map extremely aggressive, whereas Skirmish makes this map extremely passive. When you play Conquest on HPG, everything's focused around Theta. I mean, almost the entire duration of the fight happens in and around that center circle. You'll get light movements and such out to the outside, especially if someone caps in Theta and then camps there. But by and large, get a pretty hard aggression around the HPG on the upper and lower levels fairly quickly. This is 725 tons, so this is going to be much bigger mechs, I suspect.
Certainly will. At 725, you're bound. We're going to start seeing some Dragon Slayers, I suspect. That being the norm for both teams involved. Both teams have probably a full roster of Dragon Slayer pilots that are quite good at their job. Now, once again, being a Conquest map, you don't see those long, drawn-out standoffs that you do in say, Skirmish. Yet, and it forces the teams to engage. Now, HPG Manifold, not exactly known for those long-range standoffs to begin with. Skirmish, I don't know if I've ever seen a draw that didn't involve one team camping under Theta down in the bunker there. So I suspect this will be more of a traditional game, both teams pushing to Theta and starting to do NASCAR around it.
Yeah, I would predict that's pretty accurate, to be honest. Although, with the current state of the Dragon Slayer, though, having relied so heavily on PPCs as primary weapon output, unlike the Cataphract, which has several different options, I'm not sure if we'll see that or not. I know that the last time that Lords played on this map, they brought Atlases and Miseries. Will we see that again?
Be interesting. Now, 725 tons, I don't see... Well, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see more than one Atlas if they did bring any. Not the super heavy drop at 825 that we'll see next. So, you bring up a good point. Will the game stay more traditional in that, bringing DOS AC5s mixed with the PVCs? This is a good map for it. Even with the nerf, you're never fighting it more than 600 meters for the most part. So, this is one of those maps where the PPC still is quite a dominant weapon. So, will we see a traditional NASCAR style race around Theta? Or are we going to see something a little different? As you said, Miseries and Atlases from Steel Jaguar. That would certainly change things up, and those mechs don't do NASCAR quite the same way. I guess for viewers who don't know, NASCAR is sort of a community term for when, back in the old meta when you had Dragon Slayers and Cataphracts, everyone had right-sided weapons. You would do a counterclockwise circle around whatever piece of terrain you were fighting, because it sort of helped both mechs. And then whichever team could kill the most mechs lagging behind the other team would pick up the win for the most part. But you just won't see that style of a game, at least not the same, the exact same style with Miseries and Atlases, due to the speed and the nature of the mechs.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know that the AC10 PPC build is one slot in for the normal, 350 Gauss. There's, obviously the GOS and PPCs might still see that. Um, it's hard to say. There's a lot of different directions it can go. I mean, realistically, the sill is only 725 tons. How much weight they can realistically bring into a drop is still limited. Um, I'll be interested to see where it goes. Either way, it's going to be almost certainly a fight around Theta of some kind.
Well, do you want to make some bets on the drop decks this time? Or at least make some predictions?
I'm guessing AC-10 or Gauss rifle based mechs for SJR here. I think we'll see something more traditional from them on this particular drop. That's my guess for SJR.
I would say for Lords, I definitely expect to see the traditional loadout. This is almost the pinnacle map for sort of NASCAR and the older meta style. Older as in like 2 weeks ago. So I feel that does play very nicely into the Lord's strengths, so I can definitely see them playing that way. Just from what we've seen currently, I guess I would say Steel Jaguar, if any team, would be the one to try and mix things up. We'll have to see if they want to try and throw a bit of a curveball or go back to their own roots, per se, as doing the sniping meta.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've seen SJR practicing this whole large laser harass thing for a while now. So it is, if they're going to bring something different, that would be what I would guess we would see. The problem is that I don't know that they have a lot of options here for that at this particular weight. I mean, there is the quick draw. There's obviously the Shadowhawk they were using before. But all the assaults that work with this are relatively slow. Ironically, the fastest of them capable of doing this well is either, well, I wouldn't say well, the Awesome can do it, but it doesn't have the hard points high enough for it. Only option there would be a Battle Master, and that would be a competitive first for these teams, either one of them, ever.
Yeah,
I don't see
you
it.
could very well be right.
I don't know if I see it.
Now, you could see them go back to, I mean, if they're trying to do the large laser thing, you can still do it in the Dragon Slayers. And we saw that in the Clan Smoke Jaguar versus Steel Jaguar game. You did see large laser Dragon Slayers, presumably with a Gauss rifle, but I think I saw some AC-5s flying last night as well. And oddly, well, maybe not oddly enough, but I guess the fact is Dragon Slayer is probably the fastest assault mech due to its sort of XL engine that most comp teams tend to field these days.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate, especially when you consider JJ only mechs in that regard. I mean, the Highlander just doesn't compare. Your other competitors, at least for speed, would be some Battle Master builds if they'd even field it, and then obviously the awesome 9M can compete with that. Now, we have seen that mech come around a lot lately. There's been a lot of people playing it, even competitive pilots lately. Will we see it show up here? I seriously doubt it, but it does have the speed if they wanted to do that. I don't think so, though. I really don't. Check on his status here.
Well, both teams are still in the lobby. We're waiting any moment for the game to start here. Score is currently 1-1, and this is a best-of-7 series for the Invitational, so that means it's the first team to get 4 wins.
Okay, we're going to have a minor delay here. SJR's TS is having some problems. So they said they will be just a bit while they get that sorted out. Have alternatives. We'll be on our way as soon as that is resolved. That actually brings up an interesting topic. The effects of delays of matches on competitive pilots. It happens in every game, and it affects all the people involved in that when it happens, sometimes differently than others. Um, what are your thoughts on the effects of, let's just say, for you and your guys, having delays in general? They're not always preventable. How does it usually play out for you?
Yeah, delays can certainly not always be preventable. Sometimes it's just teams taking a while to get their drop decks together, and obviously then you've got technical problems that can slow things down as well. I know for SWK we can tend to go pretty late, but any game that sort of goes after midnight obviously is cutting into people's sleep. And between work and the women folk, not everyone appreciates being playing comp games for 3 hours. But at the same time, SWK has been playing competitive since pretty much all the way back. And I don't know if everyone, maybe not everyone remembers the days where we had to sync drop, but gone are the days of playing till 12:31 in the morning.
Yeah, I hear that, thankfully. And they are green. They're asking us if we're ready, which we are. Be heading off just shortly. I'm not sure if I'll get a ping when they drop. I want to be looking for that.
Yeah, I've got
Okay, we dropped.
Got the lobby thing open. There it is, loading in. Alright, so this is round 3. It's currently 1-1. And this is the 725 drop. Right off the bat, I see the Caffey Angst and a Stalker, I think? The names are kind of on top of each other. Oh, here we go. So we've got Shadowhawk K's, Jenner's Embers. I see a Griffin down there. A couple more Shadowhawks, and a Misery and a Stalker 5M. So,
for SJR, we've got
perhaps a less traditional map or loadout for House of Lords.
Yeah, and for SJR, we've got 4 Victor 9S's. We got a pair of Dragon Slayers, and a Cataphect 3D and a Lance of Light. Seems kind of an odd mix.
Right off the bat, we see Siri run straight at the enemy team, hide behind a wall, and pop a UAV. House of Lords has not noticed that UAV, so Steel Jag has full weapon loadouts, presumably on just over half of the House of Lords battle group. Got House of Lords pushing up. They're making a beeline for Theta, it looks like. Yeah, they are. They've got their Miseries and their Medium Mechs. Or Stalkers and Medium Mechs, all barreling into Theta. Steel Jaguar on the other side, still... They're capping a base with their light mechs and not engaging with the main force, so House of Lords is going to take Theta uncontested.
Very interesting. Noticing a trend here with SJR. Their 9S's do not pack Artemis either, and they are running medium pulse lasers. It's a particularly interesting change from typical 9S brawler mech.
Ooh, a different tactic coming from Steel Jag here. The light mechs that went and capped the side base have actually run up and gotten on top of the walls. They are now running and flanking, and I suspect they're going to hop down and try and cap the House of Lords back bases. And there it is. Look at that. 5-man Jenner Commando Squad leaping down and backcapping. This is an interesting move. I mean, first off, we saw House of Lords take Theta uncontested, yet Steel Jaguar, quite possibly prepared for this, is backcapping them as we speak. Stereothrax is still on top of the walls. Steel Jag is just sorts of interesting tactics tonight. Main group of Steel Jaguar still camped out on the outside of the fort, back at their starting spawn. You have a couple House of Lords lights decapping the first base Steeljag picked up.
Yeah, they don't seem terribly interested in moving their assault force from underneath. Neither team seems terribly interested in moving their assault force too much. However, there is the SJR lineup moving more towards where the House of Lords lights are. I think they're planning to
They
address
are
this.
starting to move, yeah.
On the flip side, I don't think we have any movements really from Lords. No, they are actually moving. They are on the move. I think they're doing a similar thing.
Heading back to their base to deal with the Steeljag lights, while the Steeljag heavies move to engage the House of Lords lights. So while it was an interesting counter from Steel Jaguar, one of the problems is because they never took Theta, House of Lords is bound to be a little bit ahead in the cap score, with a current 3-base lead. But of course, Steel Jaguar with those lights is probably nearly capped the House of Lords' second back base by now.
Yeah, and here's the worry.
Still out on the outskirts spotting for the light group.
House of Lords main force
Siri
moving
pokes
in on
his
the
head
right.
out.
And then you've got the House of Lords lights moving in on the left. They are getting pinched. This is not a good position for SJR
This could be disastrous. That Commando squad, you're absolutely right, flanked on both sides. Sirio dropped down to 72% when he face-tanked Gouting there. UAV goes up, and the Steel Jaguar Light Lance engages with the House of Lords.
Target acquired.
Now it's 5-on-3 for now, but the rest of the House of Lords team is right on their tail.
And Siri's about to lose
Steel
his
Jaguar
leg.
Staying.
And Siri's got legged. That is most certainly going to be the first pickup of the game.
And it looks like the rest of the Steel Jaguar Commando team is leaving Siri to his fate, and they have bailed back to their team.
Now, they got out relatively unharmed, however, so they're free to go do what they please. And from the look of things, I want to say that, and yeah, for sure, SJR had more lights. So losing the lights still leaves them on, is it even or superior footing?
And now Steel Jaguar has 3 bases to House of Lords 2.
It looks like they still have light superiority, which means in a light-on-light fight they can still win. So their Lord's lights can't aggress SJR's lights still. They have to play it cautiously. So while that pickup certainly helps, I don't really think it's the end-all be-all here.
Yeah, losing Siri may have actually paid off for Steel Jaguar. Noob Moment, can you see the Conquest score? I don't know how to pull that up if I can.
You press page up, and you just go to, on the left, you'll get the arrow, click on anyone's name you want to view, and you can see it.
Oh, good point, yeah, and that would show it. Alright, so it is 503 to 440, 3-2 caps in Steeljag's favor. So they are pulling ahead now.
Yeah, they are ahead. That means that the House of Lords has to make a play here. They are down a mech, but as I said earlier, I don't think that really matters.
Now House of Lords is pulling as fast as they can out of their base, pushing onto Theta. Steeljag lights have bailed. Firebear making a beeline back again to the House of Lords base.
Is in a bit of trouble on top of HPG right now, though.
That's true. He did get caught out. He's now being chased by lights, but he is pulling them away from the main Steeljag body. Oh, you know what? He has escaped with his life. Good for him. We see the House of Lords lights pushing through to try and take the Steeljag caps behind them. This is we're actually going to see a Conquest game played for caps.
Yeah, it's actually a rarity on this map, quite frankly. Defun is still getting aggressed by House of Lords, and currently I think we are seeing House of Lords looking to do another pinch-in on both sides of these lights.
But will it be enough to get them the edge they need? It's now 635 to 516. They've got to do something fast.
Yeah, and you've got Lords over here with their light lance also getting dangerously close to the SJR main force. Yeah, Peepers giving a peek here. I don't think there's anything they're going to be able to do, or if they'll even see it. They certainly saw it. But I don't think there's anything they can do about it currently, but still.
Wow. So it is now currently 2-1 for Caps. Sorry, yes, 2-1 now for Caps. So the Caps have slowed. Both teams have managed to decap each other's bases. But Steel Jag still maintains the advantage.
And it would appear that SJR's lights are once again caught. I'm not sure if they'll get out or not. It's looking like they might, but they did take some damage for it. But damage for a Cap, I think, at this point is fine for SJR.
So it's 2-on-2. The Jenners pushed past the Shadowhawks that were countering them. The Shadowhawks are happily going to go take the base. And
Wispy just went down.
Staying a little ways off in the distance. Oh, Wispy did. Where did he die then? He must have got by the Steel Jag Heavies. He poked his face around the corner. Find a smoking body.
I think this is over on Caps. Well done, SJR. I think that's the first time I've seen this map play out like that. Yet again, with something different.
Yeah, it's certainly quite rare. Yeah. And there we have it, 750 to 597. Excellent mileage out of both teams. They all get the stamina achievement for running 3 laps around the map.
Yeah.
But in this case, the 5-man commando team of Steel Jaguar doing the commando raid over the fortress walls was what did this. They took some casualties while doing it, left a man or two behind, but it paid off in the end. So
yeah.
It was 1 kill to 1 kill, Seriothorax going down, and Wispy, not quite sure how Wispy went down. Next to no damage across the board. A couple of goose eggs.
Yeah.
Not that that really means anything in this style of the game.
Stalkers across the board as well for House of Lords. That was certainly interesting to see. Okay, so breaking down that game. Really, I think